What's going on, everybody? I missed you. I spent the last couple days just like slowly cleaning up the garage a little bit here because it was a disaster for Miles of Mayhem. And I mean really slowly. I was taking naps like every day and I normally don't do that, so I probably was a little bit burnt out, probably a little bit of heat stroke, but I'm glad you guys suffered through it with me by watching my 10-minute video that probably didn't tire out much. Now I want to know exactly what happened to my engine. I'm not an engine builder by any means, so I don't really know what happened, and tuliping is a new term that I've just learned. But to highlight a few things from our trip that I didn't cover in the last video, Gina ended up getting 4th place in the 750 class out of 21 entries, which was super awesome. She was actually really competitive. And for everybody mentioning that she did get a lot of red lights, reaction time was added to your slip. So if you got a 75000, but you went like a 0.200 reaction time, your difference was actually 0.2000. And if you got like a 0.76 and you had a 0.1 reaction time, then you ended up with a 0.2000. See how I did that? Simple math. So a huge shout out to Gina, and she's like, next year I want to be even more competitive. So we've got to sort that car out to be more of a bracket racing 750 car because she doesn't want to put a cage in it. And I also ended up in 4th place, but there was only 7 people in my class. But I did end up 16th place on the overall 8th mile drag and drive cars of all time. Pretty cool, right? And that is despite handing in 2 670 passes in Medicine Hat at the track we started at and finished at because I couldn't get on the 2-step. But back to the real question at hand here. What really happened to my engine that day? Now, as most of you know, I had this engine built last year. It's gone through a couple of problems. The exhaust valves hit the cylinder walls, it took out the cam bearings, it pulled out a rocker stud. I'm not having a lot of fun with it. But a basic rundown on the engine, it's an iron block 5.3 with a stock crank. It's got a Wiseco piston and a K1 rod in it. It's got some cheap China heads in it that I have not been a fan of already. It's got a Truenorthturbo 8896, dual Black Sheep 45mm wastegates, a Black Sheep Industries blow-off valve, and the combo, it works when it wants to. We ended up going 5.43 at 134 mile an hour, nosing the car over at the finish line, which means it was really on a pass. And this car, with a little bit of a diet and a little bit more turned up and a little bit better air, I feel like it could dip into the 4-second zone. Now, admittedly, I have no idea what valve tuliping means, but it is not good. For example, here's 2 of our valves. Both of them were not seating. Upon closer inspection, you'll notice that this one is much more flat and this one is much more concaved, as if it were pulling itself out of the head. Now, if we stand these valves up side by side, you can see that one is significantly taller than the other one. And if we put them face to face like this, you'll notice that as it pulled out and tulipped, it actually made the valve smaller. The size of the valve actually decreased, not allowing it to seat, which ultimately resulted in compression loss and ripping heads off it at the track. Now, as much as I hated doing that at the track, there's one specific instance I remember. I don't remember exactly what was said, but Matt Blasco walked up to my car and he looked at the valves and he was like, yeah, just replace them and put it back together.
Take it, go get a valve. Just take them off then.
And I was like, shit, I guess we're doing this right now. Now, huge shout out to the block shop. They actually took the heads on and replaced all the valves in it. From what I'm told, 6 valves and 1 head were not sealing, and I didn't ask about the second head, but I'm assuming it was just as bad. But if it wasn't for Matt Blasco walking up and just saying that little comment like, yeah, whatever, deal with it, I probably wouldn't have continued on that day. I would have just left the car there. I don't want to put the blame on anyone for what happened because honestly, I don't even know how it happens. Obviously, stuff got a lot hot in the engine bay. We did turn it up a lot. The DA was really hot. I was on the 2-step forever. Like, it could have been a number of things. Probably me. Honestly, I make mistakes. I'm not the best. Now, ultimately, I think the plan is to get a different set of cylinder heads. The reason I went with these cylinder heads at the time was I contacted the engine builder and I was like, hey, do you have any experience with this specific cylinder head? And would it be good for my build? And he was like, yeah, we do it all the time, and I put different valves in it, and I do this and this and this, and it makes it work really well. Contrary to popular belief, YouTubers, not super rich. I do what I can with the budget that I do have, and that was in the budget. It was actually over budget at the time, but I did make it work. and I thought I had an awesome, nice engine. But that is the reason we put those cheap China heads on there. I put my faith in somebody else, and I don't know, it's a little bit sour, but it is what it is, and you just keep moving on. Keep a positive attitude, we keep pushing forward. And the other problem is the camshaft, the converter, and the turbo don't really like each other. I tested it out at 2300 DA the other day, and it gets on the converter like really well. I think it's like 7 seconds on the converter, which is still a little bit on the slow side, but that was manageable compared to the 12 seconds that we were doing at the track. The options I have there is, one, I could downsize the turbo, which I don't want to do. Two, I could loosen the converter, which I also don't want to do because it's really well on the shift drops. Or three, I could put a smaller camshaft in it. I have a Brian Tooley Stage 3 turbo camshaft that I can put back in this engine from our old stock bottom end, which it would get on the converter in like 3 or 4 seconds. But yeah, that's what happened to our engine. We tool up the valves. I had no idea that would even existed, and now I'm really aware of it. The springs that are in this car are actually really big. They're like a 750 spring. So there's a lot of seat pressure on these valves, which probably help pull them up through. What I think I might do in the next couple days is, if you guys want to help out the channel, I'll put these valves on the website, boostedlifestyle.com, and I will sign all of them, and you can order a valve. That's the easiest way to go about it. Or if you want to get yourself a hat or a shirt or whatever, boostedlifestyle.com. All right, the 4th place winner came out here to celebrate.
That's me.
I also got 4th, but you know, like 2 different amount of peoples. So now that we've concluded what happened to my exploded engine, Gina's car actually lost the trans brake on the last run of the day. And it turns out that the trans brake has like a little solenoid that does this, and the wires for the trans brake actually got caught between the solenoid and the part, and pinched the wire off, and no more trans brake.
I was trying to get a better time. I got that 755, but I was trying to get a better reaction time, but then I couldn't even get on the trans brake at the end of the day.
And it's funny, immediately after we got back from this event, you were like, when's the next one? How do we go?
I know, I was texting you and I was like, okay, so is there one in the States? Is there one down south? Is this one somewhere? Like, I'm ready to go on some more. Let's get a 2-car open deck trailer. So if anybody wants to swapsies for our enclosed trailer.
Yeah, we got an enclosed trailer. We need a 2-car open deck trailer. Let me know what you got. 24 feet. That's what my enclosed is. But yeah, the next race week I think is 2.0, and I think it starts in OKC, like Oklahoma, which is kind of close. And I think
it's not? Isn't like
no, kind of close date wise.
Oh, I was like,
yes,
fuck,
yes.
That's all the way down by Texas. Jesus, that's not close.
But I think the next thing we should go to is Tuner Bash. It's going to be September the 24th, I believe. That should be the next one we go to. And then beyond that, who knows?
Are we going to change the gears in my car and I'll just drive my car down?
Yeah, so we've been trying to source some gears. It'd be nice to find some 308 gears for her car. She's got 373s right now. And how fast were you going on the highway?
So like 105 was where I wanted to stay, and it was like around 3,400 RPM, between 34 and 35, doing that. And then everybody was just getting like super, I think, anxious, and people were going like 110, 115. And for me to keep up with them to go 110, it was like 36, 3,700 RPM on the highway. So like my car was hating life, I think, at that point, and I just kind of fell behind because
that's a lot of RPM.
I didn't want to do that to my car for long periods of time, so we need to change the gears.
Yes, we need to change the gears. So, like, obviously Gina doesn't want to put a cage in her car, so the 750 class is like where she's going to live, 750, 1150, all the same junk. There's more than enough power in that car that if we could run any gear ratio we want, that it'll still be consistent 750. We just have to turn up or down the power a little bit. So I feel like 308 is probably going to be the gear for that car because it lives on like a 25.5-inch tall tire on the streets and like a 26-inch tall on the track.
I have zero intentions of putting a cage in it. Like, number one, because I want to be able to take the kids in it safely. And number two, I just feel like they'll get in the way of the T-tops and just make it really annoying to use it as a street car. And I was telling Kyle at the track that I'm okay with not being the fastest car there. Like, I know a lot of these classes, it's about being the fastest, whereas I like the idea of being the most precise. You know what I'm saying? So obviously there's a little bit of luck and a lot of bit of skill that's sort of involved with that, and that's what I want to do. So I'm totally okay with no cage because it just, like I said, like Kyle said, it leaves me in the 750, and
it's such a fun street car, and if somehow we could put AC in that car, I think it'd be like
oh, that'd be minty.
way better too.
If we could get AC in it.
So
Fuck.
I don't know anything about AC systems. I know there's like a compressor and like the evaporator system in the front, but like maybe someone can convince me to put AC in that car if we can fit it. Question mark?
There's not much room though
No,
in the engine bay.
Next up, is there a specific moment on Miles of Mayhem that was like for you?
That's a stupid question because like when I hit my perfect light, that
Right.
was definitely that was definitely one of my highlights anyways, was hitting the perfect light. I didn't get a perfect time. I think it was like 7:65. But I did hit the perfect light and I handed it in. I was just like super stoked. I won $500.
There was actually 3 perfect lights that event, 1 in
Yeah.
testing and 2 in the competition. But
One
when
on
you
the last day,
when
too.
you do the math on everything, how many passes were done each day? Let's just say
I don't know.
everybody got 2 or 3 passes at 100 cars. That's 300 passes a day for 5 days, 1,500 passes. There was only 3 perfect lights. Like, it doesn't happen often when you really think about it.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of the comments where people are like, just tell her to stop going for a perfect light. No, I won't, okay? I want, like, in the class that I'm in, it does matter. But also, it's a competition against myself at that point. Like, especially now that I've hit it once, like, will I ever hit it again? Maybe not, but, like, I can try, and you can't stop me. I can try.
Yeah, so, like I said earlier in the video, that, like, your reaction time added onto your slip.
Yeah.
So it was
my
important
class,
for
yeah.
her class. And
Is it added onto yours too?
no, it wasn't. If
Unless it was over that 1 second.
they adopted the rule from sick week, so if your reaction time was less than 1 second, so let's just say your car was like mine and had a hard time getting on the trans brake, and you double bulbed yourself, and you were sitting on the trans brake, and your reaction time was 3 seconds off the green light, anything above 1 second they would add to your time. So the first day I actually ran a 6:20, but I had like an 8-second reaction time. So
Because
that
we didn't realize that rule was in effect, and we're like, oh, just sit on it, it's
Yeah.
fine. But we didn't know that was
So I
in
didn't know
effect.
they adopted that rule, so I had to throw away my 6:20 pass and hand in a 6:70, which ultimately put me out of contention for like the top 3 positions. And then on the last day, I couldn't get on the trans brake again, which like definitely bumped me out. But I feel like if I could have went decent on the first day and the last day, I was right there for a top 3 placing before the leader dropped out, and then after the leader dropped out, I was definitely right up there. Like I could have won that class had I had a first and last day
And
slip.
not so much trouble though. Like if your car had reliably gotten on the trans brake every single time, it would have never been a question. You would have been in the
Yeah.
top 3. But
And like I said earlier, it's a combination of the camshaft, the torque converter, and the turbo. I do have a smaller camshaft I can put in this motor. It would just result in I would have to pull the heads off it again for a 28th time, maybe something like that. So that's a possibility, and I should look into it considerably.
I feel like I would have been in the top 3. This is all shoulda, woulda, couldas, like concepts. But my first day, I handed in a 0.3 slip, and then every other day it was like 0.2 or less. If I had handed in a better slip on my first day, I would have been in the top 3 for sure. The other side of that is the reason why I didn't hand in something smaller than a 0.3 is because I didn't practice in my car. Because I went into this whole event brand new. I had never used the brake or the bump box. I'd never raced my car before. So like it took the testing day plus the first day of actual Miles of Mayhem for me to feel comfortable with where to shift, what I was doing on the line, and like feeling comfortable. Like when I rode the Hellcat the year before, it was all just brakes, you know what I mean? And I had both hands on the wheel. So then going into the Fox body, I had to have one hand on the shifter to shift it. And in the beginning, I was very uncomfortable, like slightly afraid to not have both hands on the wheel for safety reasons, obviously, and just what I was familiar with. So once I started doing it more and feeling where the car was supposed to shift, and the car hooked every time, like I wasn't getting squirrely or anything like that. So I definitely felt comfortable after the first day, and I got really familiar with where to shift it, and that's when we saw the power come out of the car, because there was that day we turned it up thinking that we had to, but then when I actually shifted where I was supposed to, I went from a 7.8 down to a 7.14 because I was actually shifting in the right places versus shifting too early.
And if you do the math on like a 714 in a turbo car with lots of power out the back half, it's like a 10-second car.
And I feel like that was just, we turned it up by accident, and that's not even, that was like nothing, right?
No.
So it's definitely got more room, and that's another reason why I feel like changing the gears in it is not gonna, besides giving us better drivability.
For example, we started adding more dome pressure to the car to make it go a little bit faster incrementally, but then she started shifting it later in the power band. So at one point, I think we're up to 9 pounds of boost on the dome side of the wastegate, and then by the end of the event, I think we were down to like 3.5 pounds on the dome.
We went as small as we could, but the air was getting better. I think it was the 4th day or something. The air was really good. We were literally cranking it down, and that's when I hit that 741, 743, 744, like. Even though we were changing
it was 744, 743, 744.
Yeah, so it was like so similar. Even though Kyle was like trying to like tank it down a little bit, the air just kept getting better. So that's when I just started pulling my foot off, basically.
Yeah, sandbagging it.
And then that's when I was like, okay, maybe this could be a little more fun than just tweaking things behind a computer as well. So like, I feel like the first tune is to get it as close to 750 as possible, even if it's a little bit of a breakout. And then just play with the distance for where...
keep the consistency in the tune. Don't pull anything out, and you'll just like let off a little bit at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like to do another drag and drive, because each track did feel drastically different. If you think drastically, I guess maybe not, but at each track, we never really knew what we were going into. I feel like.
No, we didn't, and the density, like the air density, was different.
Air density, but then the prep and everything else too, right? And the heat. Jeez Louise, the heat.
If there was anything different we could have done for your car on this trip, what would it be? Like, would you want to pull a trailer? Would you want...
I feel like I was fine without pulling a trailer. For future events, I would love to have my own, like... jack. Instead of like relying on that one fucking boat anchor we have there. I want a lighter one that I could keep in my car, and literally my own tire changing kit, because then I'm like self-reliant, like just do it all myself. But otherwise, I don't think there's actually anything I would change about my car besides the gears too.
Yes. So it's not that she didn't have her own tire changing kit, it's that we both had a tire changing kit and threw it all in one bag, and then it was like it just jumbled up.
I guess in one container.
Yeah, because I brought two torque wrenches.
We were using the same breaker bar, the same torque wrenches.
Yes, but I brought two of all of them.
The same impact. The same jack.
Yes.
So, like, bottom line, though, I would have to wait for some of those things, though.
Yes. So, yeah, you definitely need your own loadout, for sure. So,
but to a trailer, I feel like the Fox body, the back seat goes down, and, like, literally, I'm 5'2", even though the hospital told me I was only like 5'1" and like 3/4 of an inch. But I could literally sleep in the back if I really wanted to. So I don't know. There's lots of room back there.
Actually, thankfully on Miles of Mayhem, I don't know if it was good or bad, but we didn't get any rain, which...
We did, actually. It was the night before we raced at Forestburg. It rained in the middle of the night. And that was the morning when everyone was, like, totally underestimating the track. Everyone's like, oh, the track doesn't look sticky. It rained last night. Like, this probably isn't going to be whatever. And that's the same day where the air changed and I kept breaking out above below what I needed.
And thankfully on that day, you made the last pass. It was a good pass.
It was decent.
But they closed the lanes as soon as she was done.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
She couldn't get back in line.
I probably could have got in like one more.
Probably, yeah.
Because it was like last call, but I was like, fuck it, like I'm just gonna hand this in and call it a day. Because everybody was basically waiting for me, which I'm like so thankful for, because I mean, everybody was kind of one and done, and then me, I either broke out or I red lit, and like Kyle said, I think it was like my 5th pass or something, 5th or 6th, when I finally got a slip I could actually hand in.
It was also so much fun to meet Dan and Danny from DD Speed Shop, and then Peg was there from Zip Ties and Bias
Yeah, they were
Plies.
so fun.
And then when Joe from
Yeah, Joe.
Off-Road, Joe...
Running Joe Off-Road.
Running Joe Off-Road, there you go. All YouTube channels. It was like super cool to meet other content creators. Mm-hmm. Well, we met them last year, but like we were familiar with them this year. It was cool just to hang out. Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed the event. Like I said, we brought 3 basically untested cars.
I mean,
we
literally.
did bring 3 untested cars because yours was never on a drag strip, Tokyo's was never on a drag strip, and mine the only time was at the drag strip. We ripped the rocker arm out of it.
True.
So 3 untested cars. The 4 weeks leading up to it, exhausting. I'm still recovering from it, I feel like.
This last week, Kyle has literally been a sack of mush, basically.
Yeah.
Like, sleeping and resting, but you need it though. You literally hauled ass.
The
for
only
last
thing I
2
did
months.
was clean up the shop, which I don't think it's been this clean in a long time. But yeah, super exhausting. 3 untested cars, 1,700 kilometers, 5 days. We ripped the heads off my car. Thanks again to Block Shop in Edmonton.
And
You guys
Dan.
are awesome.
Pervert
and Dan. Pervert Dan at Hog Jogger Racing. We're going to make a Hog Jogger Racing shirt, by the way.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a thing. I'm thinking, I don't know if you want to put this in the video or not, but I'm thinking we'll do a Hog Jogger Racing t-shirt. We'll have a GI Slow t-shirt. We'll have a Malibu shirt with Tokyo's car on it. And then a Probin shirt. I don't know what to call my car. We don't really call it Thirst Trap anymore.
No, I think we avoided Thirst Trap just because of
Yeah, I know what you're
YouTube
saying.
censorship kind of deal, so...
But I don't know what else to call it besides, I don't even know, but
You could call it the Starship or the Mothership.
maybe. I don't know. What should my car be called though? For a while I was calling it the Probin Stang, and I once made an Instagram post calling it that, and I feel like Instagram heavily suppressed it because of the word Probin.
Oh.
So I had to change the O
Okay.
to a 0.
The most friendly name, put it down below. We need
Listen,
one.
as much as I want it to be very suggestive and innuendo implied, I need a name that I can actually call it. So.
And I mean,
please,
for the
suggestions.
record, your OnlyFriends account page basically paid for that car, which is why we called it what we
The
called
Thirst
it.
Trap?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I guess you don't want me to say it probably, but.
Yeah. Cuteandchaotic.com, obviously.
But the thing is my page literally pays for everything, okay? That is how I make my living, basically. So it definitely paid for that whole car, and then, groceries and all the other things that keep our household running, besides the actual rent itself. Rent, mortgage. So that's you.
But yeah, I had so much fun on Dragon Drives. I'm glad we started building our cars around this style event because I really
with that in
enjoy it.
mind?
Yeah, the Miles Mayhem. It is so overwhelmingly awesome that if you have time during a Dragon Drive after the drive portion to go out with all the other competitors, have supper, or dip your feet in the pool or whatever. It's just it feels awesome. And it's one of those things, I feel like you could probably relate to it hiking or running or anything. It sucks so bad while you're doing it. It's just physically exhausting and mentally exhausting, but after you're done it, you feel so rewarded that you've done it, and it's this thing that you can talk about, and it makes for a great story, and
It's an accomplishment, basically.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Especially, if you're in a cushion, when we took the Hellcat, it was very cushy, like reliable AC.
It didn't feel the same.
It didn't feel the same. Whereas this year, it's like in the back of your mind, not that I doubted the cars ever, but in the back of your mind, you know it could potentially happen, just like it could with the Hellcat. But like the chances are a little bit higher with the 3 cars we had this year. So.
Yeah.
It feels like an accomplishment for sure coming out of it like that.
Building your damn life resume. That's what's happening.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
No, there were definitely some really trying days though. Like we barely ate. The heat was like crazy, so we're all like struggling to stay hydrated.
Okay, we complained about the heat, but I don't think it got more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside.
Are you sure?
I think it was like right around high 90s. But for you guys that are acclimated to 100 degrees, you're like, oh yeah, that's not much. But you have to remember that we go from minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter to a plus 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, which is a 160 degree Fahrenheit swing. And that's why we get so like, just boxed up.
Well, I mean, not just that, but like, not only is there the huge swing, but the limited amount of time that we spend in that high end. Like, we've had a heat wave for the last maybe 2 weeks. But that's 2 weeks out of 52 weeks in the year that we experienced that. So I personally, like Dan from DD Speed Shop was like, because I was complaining probably the whole time about the heat. And he's like, you're really not accustomed to this heat, are you? You don't like heat. And I was like, no.
Gina was there with like a spray bottle the whole time, like in a race suit, like dying.
Yeah, basically. I had a wet bandana on. I was soaking my clothes the whole time, even though like obviously the heat is still there. That little bit of water to whisk some of the heat off my skin. I did burn a little bit, like on my neck. I think I had like a heat rash on my neck on the last day, but I wore SPF 50 because
she was like in the staging lanes with a suit on, like having anxiety, like hurry up already, like.
Oh my god, I was starting to turn into like a huge cunt because I just couldn't handle it anymore. Cause that was just the one day where there was like a big goof up in the staging lane, so I'm basically in my race suit, in the heat, no AC, no air movement at all. Waiting for them to let me race just so I could take my race suit back off. So like I'm just sitting there boiling in my car. That it was a mix up. It's fine, but I was literally turning into a Karen basically. But it was the heat.
Overall, like loved it.
Oh my god, yes.
Highly recommend everybody do a drag and drive if it's in the cards for you. It is a little costly on fuel and hotels and stuff, but if it's like your vacation you'll plan around, then it should be awesome. Like I highly recommend it. The fact that there's like this division now of like you build your car, it's either a race car, you get no intercooler, you get no cooling system, you get methanol, or you go this way, you get full street car. It's a lot slower, but you can drive it all the time, and it's like what you want to do. And I think Rich said it best when he's like, these cars were made to be driven and used. Like, why would I own a car that I can't use 360 days out of the year? I'm going to 5 events.
I think it just really depends on a person's goal though. Do you know what I mean? Like, do they want a race car that they can't use? Like, do they care? Or do they want that mix?
True, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm on the side of street cars.
Which is ironic because you very much have a race car, but
It's a fast street car.
with a cage.
With a cage. The cage doesn't limit my comfortabilities. My comfortabilities.
Your comfortable maladies.
Yep.
No, but I feel like my car is more street car. Like, my car is 60% street car, 40% race car. Your car is 60% race car, 40% street car. That's how I would split it, basically.
Yours is probably more than that.
You think so? More street car?
I feel like if we both drove our cars downtown right now, 9 times out of 10, I would get pulled over before you. Just because.
Because you drive like a dick?
No, just like, it's loud, it's got a cage in it, like, it's not much. It's more like 20% street car, 80% race car.
You think so?
Something like that. Anyways, that was our trip. I enjoyed it.
I did. I love this so much.
Yeah, I want to do it again. Like I said, we'll probably try and get to another outing this year. Probably be Tuner Bash in Edmonton, September 24th, I believe.
Yep.
Nick and I have something up our sleeves with changing the turbo on this thing and maybe going for a crack at an actual race class, which could be interesting. We have two of us lined up, Truenorthturbos. We're going to go at it, prove that our turbos work, and we'll see what happens. Make sure to like the video because Gina's awesome, and then make sure to like it again because I'm awesome.
Wait, then that unlikes it, and then like it again because you enjoyed
the video. Pace easy. Get that V. Oh. My ass.
Old man.
We just sat there for